Greetings and salutations, fellow nerdlings. Welcome to the Hateful Geeks. Tonight, we're going to be discussing our reviews of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. What an excellent film. And hopefully we'll get through this podcast without Andy crying about his daddy issues.
Son of a bitch.
Welcome back to the Hateful Geeks. My name's Phil.
This is Andy.
And Sweeney.
Tim.
And tonight we are going to be discussing probably one of the greatest movies, let alone comic book films, I feel I've ever seen. And I know this is the Hateful Geeks, but I didn't find a lot that I could hate on here.
We haven't been hateful yet.
Not yet.
We might get there.
They're going to get hateful.
Yeah. But this was by far, I know you guys don't agree with me. I think it's better than the first one.
I agree.
It was the fact that you get so many different emotions from all these different characters and they go through like a whole storyline. I didn't get bored. I didn't feel like I was sitting in a 2.5 hour movie.
I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was better, but I would say equal. And that to itself is still a compliment because, as I said last time, Guardians of the Galaxy is one of my favorite Marvel movies, if not my favorite. So this one, great emotion, great humor. A little heavy on the humor, but still great.
Did you say it was heavy on the humor? You don't like laughing? Whatever. I would say that from a plot perspective and acting perspective and dialogue, this was superior to the first film. I actually feel like the soundtrack wasn't as good as the first movie.
I will agree with that.
But everything else, loved it.
I don't know. The soundtrack had its moments. It's been a week and I can't get Brandy stuck out of my head.
They did play that a lot.
But it's a good song.
There's a purpose before it, but It was like, all right, we know what it's about. We know you're a sailor. You're going back out to sea because you don't want to be with your wife anymore. You want to have a baby and then go rule the world.
Let's preface here. This is going to be a spoiler-heavy zone. If you have not seen Guardians yet and you're tuning into this podcast,
stop listening.
No, keep listening because you should have seen this movie already, and this is your own fault.
Exactly.
So let's go through kind of like what we saw. So we start off in Guardian greatness. They're in the middle of doing what they do best, which is just wrecking alien ass. They've been hired for this great job by the Sovereign, which is like this like species of golden clones, super up their own butts, to protect some battery.
I like them.
You like the Sovereign?
I connect with them.
Well, not only are they like golden, whatever creatures, but I think, and I have to go back and see it again, but I think that they mentioned that they're Kree, which is, I think, the first mention of the Kree in the Marvel Cinematic
The Kree was mentioned. I don't think they are the Kree, but the Kree was mentioned.
I feel the dialogue mentioned that the Kree are kind of looking for the Guardians. They got a price on their heads, but they're not the Kree. The Sovereign is not the Kree.
Well, it's not the first because wasn't Ronan's Kree?
Yeah, right. He was Kree in the comic books, but did they mention he was Kree in the movies?
Yes.
I don't know.
Did they?
Yes.
Okay.
He's resurrected by the Kree Empire.
Kree outcast, because wasn't he outcasted because he's kind of like...
He was an extremist.
Yeah, he's all about the old school Kree shit.
So they're on the Sovereign planet, protecting the batteries from these intergalactic, I don't know what, vagina teeth slug monsters? I don't know what those things were called.
So it's the first time since Doctor Strange where they kind of touched on the multiverse and the different dimensions that we actually get a multi-dimension creature. He actually says, do you see the device he's using? It's an old school techno football game where you just had like little dashes. He somehow converted this into a
like a dimensional
tracking device somehow.
It was so of course these things come out of nowhere and faceless monster to fight and cue opening credits and Baby Groot is back in action. Baby Groot. It was one of the biggest highlights of this movie, hands down. I'm trying to remember, what was the opening music?
ELO, but I can't remember the song title.
Even before the music kicked off, when little baby Groot, like runs up and sucker punches one of those little lizard things, right. And he's like, "No, they did not look at you weird."
I think hands down, it is the single best opening sequence of a Marvel movie.
Sure. Yeah.
It was pretty much fan service for everyone who loves the first one. It was just diving in. They've only been together for about 4 months, so you pick right back up. They're kicking ass, and you get Groot dancing, and you even get the play where Drax falls down and he stops dancing. Drax looks away, he's dancing again. So little potted baby Groot, little throwback. I loved it. I ate it up.
So, push comes to shove. They stop the monsters. They get the batteries. They bring them back to the Sovereign.
And
then you have Drax pop out. He thinks he did it all by himself.
Of course. Well, that's Drax. And props to Dave Bautista. Drax went from a very two-dimensional, but don't get me wrong, a funny character, but not incredibly fleshed out, to probably one of the highlights of the movie. So plot-wise, they save the day. Raccoon insults everybody on the fucking planet,
as he should,
and steals their shit. Yeah, you're winking with the wrong eye, Andy. You're using the wrong eye.
Wait, did you just wink on a podcast?
I did.
Nobody can see.
Nobody saw that.
They heard it. See.
And of course, they make their grand escape, getting attacked by what it felt like they were all at an arcade. The Sovereign.
I thought that was amazing.
It's clever. They're playing
great.
unmanned vehicles. It looks like they're all in the arcade attacking them. They get the Milano, the ship named for Alyssa Milano from Who's the Boss, gets just straight wrecked.
Yep.
It is in pieces.
Well, they were chasing them because the one thing they were there to protect,
they stole.
Rocket stole.
Thanks, Rocket.
Dick. And they asked him why he did it. He's like, oh, because I could.
Drax kind of did it. No. But yeah, Rocket, just thanks again for getting everyone in trouble.
And it reminded me of Galaga. A straight, like a 3D, hyper realism.
A real life version of Galaga.
Yeah, a real life version of Galaga. Because all the ships were just kind of twining together, chasing this one point.
And here comes fucking Kurt Russell riding a giant white space sperm and just decimates the entire fleet of Sovereign, and gives him a straight up wink, nod while he's doing it.
Wait,
cowboy.
And you say sperm. I say it'll be a giant suppository.
Ooh.
It was a big egg. It was big.
Like somebody's gonna show somebody's butt.
It looked like that. It looked like the thing from Train Spotting that he went to the toilet for. That was heroin.
But even before that, we were talking Drax, and throughout this cast, I'm going to throw out some of my favorite Drax, because Drax, to me, he stole the movie. He had some of the best one-liners. So when they were about to encounter all this, and Rocket said that he was going to leave a turd inside of Star-Lord's pillowcase, but it was going to be Drax's, and Drax laughed and said, I am known for my famously large turd.
I thought of you while I was watching the film when he said that.
That's kind of creepy.
I was like, Andy would love that line.
I laughed.
Poop jokes in
cried.
But
space.
he had so many one-liners that
was
were
so
his normal, so naive and so doesn't have any sense of sarcasm or just dense. But they were so perfect.
I'm very glad that we got in dialogue Drax's retelling of how he met his wife. He's describing this grandiose ball of dancing and festivities and partying, and then I saw her, and she would not even tap her foot, and I knew we were destined to be. That is so Drax. He found the one chick at the goth party who didn't want to get down.
And then he proceeds to tell us that she made his nether regions engorge.
Thanks, Drax.
Thanks for that image.
I learned more about the Guardians' genitals in this film than I ever thought I could.
Oh, when Drax asked Ego if he had a penis?
He's like, it's magnificent.
So Drax was great, but so picking back up on the timeline, yes, we have
the Milano crashed.
The Milano crashes, Ego lands, he's here to save him, and he drops the, hey, I'm your dad, which we found out very early in the movie.
Yeah, almost damn near the beginning of the film. And anyone who listened to our last podcast, I just want to throw it out there, fucking called it. Ego is the villain. Because as we find out, he's come back. And of course, absentee father, he's already a villain in that aspect. But he collects Peter Quill and Gamora and Drax, takes them back to his planet, which is him. He takes them back to him. Ego takes him back to him and shows him this magnificent bubble worlds that only Blizzard could have created.
Right.
So Ego is a celestial, and he came into being and created himself as a planet, and then wanted to see what else was out there in the galaxy, and therefore created his own person in Kurt Russell.
And apparently a penis.
With
A penis, but
super important.
which is also a lot better than a giant planet with a goatee.
That's
Now,
true.
how good is Marvel at taking some of our favorite actors and taking them back to how they looked in the 80s? Michael Douglas, and now
Oh my
Kurt
God.
Russell.
You're exactly right, Andy. We were completely wrong. This film opened up with a flashback to Ego in the 70s dating Peter Quill's mom.
And he looked, it looked spot on.
It did. He looked
Even
fantastic.
the Kurt Russell little wink, that smile. I mean, was I watching Overboard?
To me, and I said this, I even said this to the person I was with at the movie. I said, is that Kurt Russell or is that Patrick Swayze? Because he looked a little bit like Patrick Swayze.
He did look like Patrick Swayze.
And I was like,
Point Break.
wait a second.
You got to understand that Kurt Russell in his heyday and Patrick Swayze were like Chris Pratt and Chris Evans and all the other Chris's that are like that was their decade to like be clones of each other. They only could do so many movies at the same time.
Right. But I was kind of like, Patrick?
He's back.
He's back.
We brought him back. Yeah, no, you're right.
They look great.
Hollywood is doing a great job of using computers to make aging actors look in their prime again. I'm sure they appreciate it.
And even Robert Downey Jr. when they did the flashback in Civil War when he was about, 18, 19 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they
looked great.
They made him look 18, 19 years
Yeah.
old.
I thought I was watching Weird Science again.
Yeah.
He looked like he did in Weird Science. It was fantastic.
It almost weirded me out a little bit because I was like, well, why does he look so weird? But it's like, you think about it, it's like, oh, you're so used to seeing him at 40, 50 plus, whatever he is now.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, he was like skinny little kid.
Yeah. So I tip my cap to the special effects
Yes.
guys.
Definitely.
Great.
Well done, thank you. Like the LucasArts could probably learn something from you guys. Like you guys did a fantastic job. So while Peter's on his magical journey to reconnect with his space father, we get to see the Stallone cameo.
Yep.
Stallone, Starhawk, one of the original Ravagers. Yondu and his Ravager squad, Taserface, are chilling in the bar drinking, and there's Balboa in all of his Italian stallion glory
With all of their robot prostitutes.
all that. You know what, I think that is a business waiting to happen.
Kudos to Marvel
Japan
or
might
Disney or whoever did this to fit in prostitution into a Disney film.
You know what, Japan did it already. Robotoots, I don't know what to call them. but yeah, so the Ravagers are getting blasted, and Yondu's like, hey, Starhawk, like my mentor, what's up? And there's a small exchange of dialogue, and I don't know if Stallone is getting like a speech coach, but I understood every word he said. I know he spoke quite clearly and eloquently, and told me broke the Ravagers code. Like, you dealt with kids, man. And for a minute there, I was like, what did Yondu do with children?
Right.
But no, that harkens back to the first movie where we kidnapped Peter Quill, and apparently, as we find out, that was not the first child that Yondu was collecting for Ego.
And we'll get there.
We'll get
We
there.
haven't got there yet, but we will definitely touch on that whole weird child abduction thing.
I don't know if you guys saw. Well, it was pretty hard to miss. This was one of the first Easter eggs also in the film on this planet. Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brought him back again. Thank you, James Gunn.
The man loves Howard the Duck.
Yes, with Seth Green.
With Seth Green.
If Sethy gets his own Howard the Duck movie, I'll wait in line for that. So if you're listening, please, I want to watch that Howard the Duck movie.
We want Howard.
And please, just don't let George Lucas near this one. The first one, we had problems.
Or Leia Thompson.
Right.
Oh God.
Dead?
Alive.
Alive.
Oh, okay.
Jesus, man.
Alive.
I haven't seen them in 10 years. They must be dead. Dead is their
on
careers.
Some crappy ABC Family show.
Oh,
But there are a lot of similarities between this and some of the Lucas films. Just saying, daddy issues, go off to the planet, save yourself again. The team splits up, and there's a lot of correlation there. But that's a talk for another day.
I even like the costume design for Starhawk. Like, seeing Stallone in like a Ravager-ass Starhawk. Because okay, so for those of you who aren't aware, Starhawk's comic book costume is like full body spandex with a hoodie and like big yellow feather things like protruding from his head, and he flies around like a
plume.
Starhawk. Yeah, a plume. Very nice, a plume. And I don't think that would have worked on film.
No.
So modernizing it, seeing like the shoulder plume a little bit with the lighting. I you know what, Stallone, I'd love to see you in more of these. I think you did a good job.
They had the yellow lights on his shoulder that I'm sure if they pop up in the sequel have a helmet.
Right.
I see this. I see them. It's pretty much they are the first incarnation of the Guardians. We will see them again.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
We're jumping
We're jumping way ahead.
We are. We're all over.
It was
the
a
place.
little Judge Dredd-esque outfit for Stallone.
Right.
A little bit. Not quite as gaudy with all like the decorations and the gold shoulder pads, but esque.
So we've got the first inklings of like the Ravagers and like the disconnect between Starhawk and Yondu over the code of the Ravagers, and of course like the Sovereigns show up and like, hey Yondu, your boy robbed us. We need you to find him.
Right, and we already see a little bit of unrest in the Ravagers. So Taserface, if you guys don't know, is Taserface.
Taserface.
Right. Exactly.
Who would have
The
thought
worst name.
that guy would have been that funny?
Right.
He is already questioning Yondu's leadership because pretty much at that point, Stallone's character,
Starhawk.
thank you, I completely blanked, has cut off Yondu and his pack from the rest of the Ravagers. Like, done. You're out of here. I don't want to see you. We're not going to support you anymore, and you're done. And so they're already questioning him, and then the goldenrods.
The Gold Patrol.
Right.
Solid gold. They just show up. And not only do they show up, they literally all show up. Like the entire species in a straight single file line.
Roll out that blue carpet.
They literally roll out the carpet for themselves.
Right.
And they hire him to find Peter Quill, who's off on his, daddy adventure.
Daddy issues.
And I have to say, unfortunately, my wife had to leave the theater for this scene for other reasons, but she missed out on what I thought was one of the coolest scenes of the film, and that's the Ravagers sneaking up on the downed Milano to take on Rocket Raccoon by himself.
Well, he has Gamora with him, but she's the prisoner at this point.
No, you mean Nebula.
Nebula. Sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like we
Sisters are flipping.
And like we talked about in our last podcast, they brought Nebula back to redeem Nebula.
Right. So yeah, that was an awesome scene. You think Rocket's completely unaware, sitting in the ship trying to fix it with the prisoner. We soon find out he's playing all of them.
Oh my god. Rocket is a tactical genius by far. He single-handedly wrecks all of Yondu's crew, and the only reason he even goes down is because Nebula gets free. Baby Groot, why'd you do it?
Right,
traitor.
Well, I mean,
not more traitor, gullible.
Right.
Yeah. He loves Rocket, so he was doing what he thought was the right thing to do.
Right.
And then of course you hear the little, and there's the arrow.
Oh, you know what? Yondu's arrow is probably one of the coolest space weapons I think I've come across in a while.
Right.
I mean, lasers pew pew, but telekinetic arrow murder machine.
And we find out like it's almost controlled by it's a mohawk.
The fin.
Fin.
Well, it becomes the fin. Before we have the fin, he has the flat mohawk, and once that gets shot off
by Nebula,
he no longer can whistle and bring the arrow up. He can't get it up.
Ha!
There's a joke in there somewhere.
There's a joke right there,
Yeah.
in fact.
So we get Nebula shooting it, and she pretty much at that point takes control of his Ravagers.
But what about Taserface?
Taserface.
They went on for 10 minutes. Rocket Raccoon literally just dug into this guy for a stupid-ass name.
And it was amazing.
It was.
When he asked him, he's like, do tasers literally fire out your face? And he's like, it's metaphorical.
For what? Bradley Cooper.
Cracking up.
So I want to ask you guys, when you hear Rocket talking, do you hear Bradley Cooper?
I don't.
I do not.
I don't either. I don't know if they're doing anything to like modulate his voice, or if he's doing a voice, but it sounds unique enough that I don't hear Bradley Cooper. I hear Rocket Raccoon.
Right.
Which is, I think, a testament to his ability.
And I think it is mostly him just changing his voice a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't hear much distortion, not like with Baby Groot, because obviously it's still Vin Diesel, but it's like this miniature voice. So
They definitely are upping the treble on that one.
Right, exactly. So yeah, we get back into their ship. I don't know what they have a name for their ship, but the Ravager ship.
Sure.
And we see probably one of those brutal deaths for a lot of the people is that they're putting them in the airlock.
And
They-
releasing
them into space.
They literally GOP'd half the Ravagers that were loyal to Yondu.
Right. Including, what's his face from Braveheart.
Oh, the scarred dude.
Yeah, the scarred.
Whose name the guy in Braveheart. I know the scene because his wife at the beginning of the movie is taken for prima nocta the first night. He's got the very scarred.
Well, he has the grin. It's the what's that called? The Glasgow grin.
Yeah, he was on Sons of Anarchy. It's Tommy Flanagan.
Tommy Flanagan. But he actually. So I think it's the Irish Mafia that did that to people, and it's actually like a punishment. And they like put like broken glass in your mouth, and they shove it in.
Should we be talking about this?
That's what happened to him.
Are they going to storm our basement?
I hope not.
I'm
I'm Irish, so I mean, I think we're okay.
You'll get us out of it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we're good.
buddy.
I'll talk him out of it.
Nice.
But yeah, that was like to me that was like one of the most like you think it's just the one guy, and then they kind of fan back and you see this line of cold dead bodies just floating, and I'm like, wow,
it's brutal.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first times you see Yondu actually looked defeated.
Mm-hmm.
You could see he was actually pretty crushed by this.
You get a hint of that when he's on the planet with the robot prostitutes. I don't know the name of the planet. That's the name for me.
We'll call it Hooker 5000.
Right, exactly. You can see something's bothering him. Like, he looks off. Like, he's not his normal, like, cocky self. He's very kind of, he doesn't want to go with the rest of the guys. He's kind of like, feels defeated after, Starhawk's character kind of shuts him down. But yes, definitely that he had no interest whatsoever to be anything there.
So the coup is on. Like the Ravagers are, as we know them, are defeated. Taserface is taking over the entire ship, and Nebulous is pulling the strings because she just wants to find her sister and give her just the most savage of sisterly beatings. Good for her. Whatever. I mean, when Thanos makes them fight each other, I'm sure there's some bad blood there.
Well,
I
yeah.
didn't care.
Well, that's why she has all the robot parts.
Yeah, because the
Because
cybernetics.
her dad made them fight, and he told her, if you win, you don't have to get this anymore. But if you keep losing, I'm going to keep making you better so you're equal.
Thanos it should write a book on parenting and then burn it because it would be garbage. But so she gets her ship, she makes her way, and of course dressed like a Ravager, because that's the theme here. They work for the Ravagers. They have a uniform, and it looked good. It's a cool setting for the piece. Like, I'm enjoying it.
They even gave one to Baby Groot.
Sure.
They made him a mascot.
Oh, by the way that they treated Baby Groot, my wife and I were looking at each other like, these evil dicks.
Oh yeah, it's like a puppy almost. Like, you see someone be mean to a puppy. Like, why would you do that to him?
You see somebody. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's like you see this little guy. He's obviously not a threat anymore. Like, he is so tiny at this point, which is sad because Groot at one point was like 28 feet tall. I mean, just like massive. Like, he's just a little guy, and they're like pouring alcohol or whatever they drink. I don't know if it's alcohol or jet fuel or whatever it is. And you see Baby Groot crying and just moping. I literally that brought a tear to my eye in the movie theater. I was
If it didn't, I'd think you were dead inside.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you see a man beating his dog or beating his Groot, you kick his ass on the spot.
Yep.
Period.
Agree.
So, moving along, we've got Peter Quill with his adventures with Ego Daddy, and we get the quasi-romantic tale of his wooing of his mother. And of course, Drax, in all of his glory, has to bring up his penis. Bring up. Oh God.
Wait a second.
Phrasing.
Is that a thing?
Bringing it up.
But yeah, so Drax just does not understand culture at all. He's got to talk about that ego weaning.
And then Kurt Russell confirms that Goldie Hawn is a happy woman.
He does say it's quite nice.
He does. It's magnificent.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Good for him.
Is it the size of a planet too?
Ouch. Well, they actually addressed that because Drax, again, in all his wisdom, says, well, if it was a planet size, he would just crush your mom.
Oh, so fun fact, in my theater, when that scene took place, about when Drax and Ego were discussing wieners, I watched a woman take her small child and leave the theater, and they did not return. So Marvel, don't get me wrong, I'm 34, I love dick jokes, but you might have lost some of the parents bringing their little kids to these theaters. A little racy. I don't have a problem with it. Somebody did.
Right. They could put that warning on next time. May contain dick jokes.
Planetary celestial penis jokes may be heard.
This was rated PG-13 though.
I was going to say it is PG-13, and this is the sequel to a movie that made a semen joke. a Jackson Pollock painting.
Oh God, they did talk about that in the first one. If you put a black light up in this place, they would just look at Jackson Pollock painting. Well played, you're right. So yeah, there's a history of this. So you should have known when you were getting into Lady with a Baby.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Shame on you.
Shame on your child.
Shame.
Do I have a bell?
Shame.
So of course the ego starts telling him, like, I need you to like help make the universe a better place, and you can help me by learning how to harness the light.
Yeah, we all knew that Peter's not mortal. Like, obviously he can hold an Infinity Stone and not die. So obviously he's not a person.
I mean, he's a person. We're all people.
Right.
Now. Come on.
Well, all right, PC guy.
he's more than human.
He's not Homo sapien.
Thank you for finishing that.
There you go.
Show me got a biology degree over there. Awesome.
Yeah, so we find out apparently he has superpowers that connect to this light.
How did you feel about that? I sort of like Peter Quill as just like the gun-toting space scoundrel, very Han Solo, but now he's got magic light-wielding powers.
I mean, I like it because it kind of... So we got from the previous one, wait, how can he do this? And they're showing us this is why he can do this. It kind of like feeds into that.
I mean, it fit into the story that they wanted to tell with Ego's plan and all that.
Fair enough, but so he's found out he's got this godlike, light-wielding abilities, and the first fucking thing he does is he makes a ball to play catch with his dad. Oh, who felt feels? I felt feels.
And he has no soul.
I actually, that is one spot where I thought the visual, the effects, it did look a little off. Him tossing I didn't connect with it. It didn't. And like you were saying, I actually don't like Star-Lord having these mystical powers because he's the human element of this film. He's there for us as viewers to put ourselves in that spot. So it is what it is. I don't hate it. I wasn't over excited about it either.
Yeah, and like Tim said, they needed that part for the plan of the movie.
Yeah.
As we find, because then as it goes on, we find out we think Kurt Russell or Ego is all, I will reconnect with my son. I'm so happy. I want to be with you. And no, you're just gonna be my little puppet.
Yeah, you're my battery.
But the way we find that out is through some fantastic dialogue between Drax and the new character Mantis.
Yes.
Tim, are you familiar with the actress playing Mantis?
Not really. It's like Palm, and I can't pronounce her last name.
Google it.
I had it on IMDb up a second ago, and then I lost it.
I know she's like French and part Vietnamese. I was doing some research on her as well. I enjoy her character. She didn't jump out at me like, oh my God, she's super pivotal to this film. But the way her and Drax played off of each other, every single thing he said to her, I was cracking up.
Oh, he calls her hideous.
Certainly not.
He calls her
She's
hideous
lovely.
when he says, I tried to let you down gently by telling you how disgusting you are.
It's great. It's great comedic effort with Palm Clementif, I think is how you pronounce her name. And then Dave Bautista, who just came from, before Guardians of the Galaxy, came from WWE, where he's just power bombing people through tables.
But this makes sense because he straight up bro code like negs her.
Yeah,
He pulls it straight from, I don't even know what that book was, but he negatively attacks her and she just starts like befriending him for it. So not cool, man.
Wasn't that the dentist code?
That's the dentist system.
The dentist system.
Yes. What a douchebag.
For all you Always Sunny
Do
fans
you
out there.
think this will be a future romantic interest in the movies?
Drax is incapable of that type of love.
Because even at the end, when the gorgeous thing's going on, and he even compliments her finally and says, You're beautiful too. On the inside. So
I think that the more or the most romantic angle in the whole series is Peter and Gamora.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I loved the scene where he is trying to talk to her about the unspoken thing. And again, they've only been together. This is only a 4-month span.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been together long enough, but not enough for them to still pick up on his Earth references. So when he starts talking about Cheers and Sam and Diane, and he's going on and on and on, and she finally is like, I've never seen Cheers. I don't know what this is. Shut up with your Earth references.
The first two movies, the first season of Cheers. It's fine.
Yes.
That's how I feel when I talk to my wife. Like I feel like I talk TV and I talk a movie quote. She's like, just shut up and speak English.
We all relate to that. I mean, all four of us in here, I think most of the time we're talking to each other in movie quotes.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And so I related with that
Accurate.
with Peter. And when she came back and said that, I did. It made me happy.
I mean, I think Peter Quill is definitely like, nerds in space. Like, anyone who's ever seen Farscape, same character. The main character of Farscape is constantly doing sweet movie and TV references from Earth, and everyone around him is like, nobody knows what the f- you're talking about, bro.
You can curse.
Oh,
Okay.
nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about, bro.
There you go. Get it out. Feels good, doesn't it?
It does. It feels good. Fuck.
Yeah. So we do finally get like that scene where you think Gamora might give in a little bit, because we kind of had it in the first, but they finally dance and they play music together when they're drunk.
If you're telling anyone, will kill you.
Right, exactly. And then she actually dances with him, which we kind of skipped a funny note. Another funny part of Drax is when Drax sneaks up on Quill in the ship, and it's like, she doesn't dance. There's people that dance, people don't dance, and you don't dance. And he usually finds someone pathetic, like you.
Batista, I think we talked about this in our last podcast, but for a guy who came straight from the WWE trailer, people, he has come a long way. And granted, Drax isn't a super emotive character, but he delivers with such great timing and inflection. This character has grown greatly since the first film. I love Drax.
I received a little, not feedback, but input from our last discussion on that, and how dare we miss this one. Andre the Giant, Princess Bride.
Okay. But the point of our discussion was how many people blew up in the world of cinema. Andre the Giant was amazing.
He would have.
He was great, and Princess Bride is a personal favorite
It is, of
me.
all of us.
And yes, he was great. Anybody want a peanut? He was fantastic, but he didn't make like 15 films that grossed over $1 billion.
He never got that chance.
Well, that was the point of our discussion.
Yes.
We're talking about ex-wrestlers who made a new career for themselves as actors and entertainers.
I agree.
But he was above. I would say Andre the Giant was above the WWE. People outside of wrestling knew who he was.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yes.
How dare us?
Right.
So whoever threw that input out there, thank you for that reference. You're still technically wrong, but that's not the point. So we've got Drax and Mantis is like getting, she's warming up to the Guardians. She's she knows what Ego's grandmaster plan is, and
But she hasn't quite.
she doesn't know how to say it.
Right.
And Gamora certainly is like picking up because she's learning to read between the lines. God knows why she still hasn't seen Cheers, but she's can read between these lines. And we find out ultimately that Ego's grandmaster plan is to seed every planet in the universe with himself.
Which he already has done. So we find out that it's not just Peter was his child.
There's a whole slew.
He
of
went
kids.
to millions of planets and impregnated whatever
He
race or creature or whatever was there to get another celestial being.
But we were treated to, and that's like from the original scene when he's showing the amazing. I don't want to say CG because it was all CG, but for their perspective, it was those big orbs like telling the story of Ego.
Yep.
And you see the scene of him like making out with Peter's mom, but in the retelling, you get to see young Kurt Russell in like a gross alien mashup orgy.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna lie, I might have barfed in my mouth a little bit.
Like this like diorama of like Kurt Russell tentacle porn. Like it was just like, oh god, like I don't need to see Kurt Russell making out with a Cthulhu.
It was a weird mannequin-esque display.
And I'm sure I saw a few weeaboos in the stands getting a little like uncomfortable.
Wow. So we find out the plan, and at this point, Nebula has come back to wreak havoc upon Gamora.
Just chases her down the literal rabbit hole. That, for all we know, that was like Ego's eardrum or butthole. For all just some cave on Ego.
Right.
Chases her down, just shooting the shit out of her. Like if you can't win in a gunfight, bring a bigger gun.
Right. At which, at that point, when the ship wrecks, Gamora then picks up the gun from the ship and just unloads on the wreckage.
I'm not gonna lie, I might have had a fear erection during that scene. She was holding a gun that was probably half the size of the Milano itself, like a bazooka, and just laid into the ship.
It was the gun from
the ship.
Yeah.
Nebula's ship. Now, there's parts of that whole storyline that I see how it fits in. I also see if you removed every scene that Nebula was in, you changed nothing in that movie.
I understand that, and I agree, because I think we all kind of were in agreement, like the Nebula plot line is really not going anywhere, that we don't see. We kind of see where it's going, but you got to give more for the other Guardians to do in this film, and this was Gamora's subplot.
Well, that, and I think Andy's right. I think not even Marvel or James Gunn knows what he wants to do with this character. Because even if you read the comic that came out right before this movie, Nebula cuts off her own arm. But in the movie, she says Thanos ripped her arm. So it's like, can you make up your mind? Like, what do you want to do with this character?
Maybe she herself isn't even aware of what's hers and isn't hers anymore.
My prediction is Nebula is going to be one of the first victims we see on screen of Thanos. She's going to go and be like, I'm here to finally stop you, Daddy, for doing this. And it's just going to be Nash. Next.
That's all she talked about.
Yeah, she's going to go after Thanos. He's going to offer.
Right.
Gamora's going to be
This is a film of nothing but people with daddy issues, dude.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're 100% right.
It is.
Yeah, it's like Star Wars.
Which we all love.
Right.
So I love this.
But I disagree with you with the one scene. We do need Gamora and Nebula fighting. That's how we discovered that whatever that cave was, where all the bones of all the different children were, of the different species. And you see this almost like a giant, I don't want to say like throne, but
tomb.
Which triggers Gamora to go to Mantis and finally throat grab her.
There is a little bit we need.
Yeah.
Not all of it, I do agree, but that one, we kind of needed that just to uncover why would they go down there? You know, why would they go find this room? That's why.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely forwarded the plot, so I mean, we can't entirely hate on it.
Right.
It could have been, I don't know.
It could have been
anybody.
Right.
Drax could have been just off for a stroll and
wow, there are many bones in this cave.
It could have been done where just the grand reveal instead of the ego reveals to everyone instead of just Peter.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing.
But then Ego drops a bomb on it. I mean, I did not see it coming and it's kind of Peter out of his like whatever that galactic trance.
Which some people are saying is another Easter egg. So when you see Peter's eyes glaze over and all the stars, he whispers a word, and he says eternity. And some people are saying, did he see the Marvel character Eternity?
Another Celestial.
Exactly. Who in the comics looks like the universe.
You're exactly right.
Yes.
He is like moving stars on like a human in a humanoid body.
Well, isn't he considered to be like the father of all Celestials? Like he is.
I think
that I honestly don't know. Celestials are one that I'm not very.
You know, I've even seen a cover of a comic, and it was Thanos talking to Eternity, and he says, "Now that all your minions have died, the Father can rise."
Your Eternity is in fact the embodiment of the universe. So yes, from a Celestial in the comics, as we've learned through this movie as well, the Celestials are basically the oldest beings in our known Marvel universe. Ego was one of the first, but Eternity existed even before that.
Which we've seen two before Ego. Well, we saw one, the head of one, which was where the Collector was.
Nowhere.
That's the skull of a dead Celestial. And there was another one they saw, and I think they saw fighting somewhere, or like they get a flashback to it in the first one.
In the first Guardians, yeah, when he has the stone, the stone gem, what are they calling it in the films? But he has it. That was a Celestial.
And I'd have to look it up, but I thought Collector was a Celestial.
Collector is, and so is Grandmaster,
which is his brother,
which is Jeff Goldblum's character in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, so we have quite a few Celestials already out there. So who would have thought we would have been at a time when we go to the movies and we see Celestials, we see gems, and then because of everything that's going on Ego and Rocket and Yondu, heart-touching moment also with them, and with Baby Groot again, going through the hilarious scenario of trying to get his fin back so they can make this great escape. Jumping through all these different universes. And what did we get? We got Stanley's cameo.
Talking to the fucking Watchers.
The Watchers. And it's not like the movie version of Watchers. It was ripped straight from the fucking comic books. They looked amazing.
It's straight up 60-foot tall, bald people.
Big heads.
With giant
bald
heads
dudes,
and blue capes.
Which just confirmed that everyone's just saying this confirmed it. Everyone's theory is Stan Lee himself is a watcher of the Marvel Universe. And here he is going, hey, and one time I played a FedEx delivery guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Tony Stank.
Makes sense.
I was grinning.
Right. Well, we get that hilarious thing because, you know, they're like, oh, we gotta go save Peter from Ego because obviously Yondu knows. We don't know that he really knows, but we kind of can tell. And so immediately Rocket says, let's go to Ego. And Yondu's like, no!
Oh, and their faces distorting and
Because
everything.
nobody makes that many
Right.
jumps back to back.
Yes.
And they're, even Groot throwing up at the end.
Just a little bit.
Just, it looked like Exorcist green algae
He didn't-
shit just coming out of his mouth.
There was no, like, emotion on his face. It was just...
Yeah, by far. Oh, and pairing Rocket and Yondu in this story was a great idea. They are very similar, like gruff on the outside, little marshmallows on the inside characters.
Yep.
So their dynamic between Michael Rooker and Bradley Cooper's raccoon was very well played out.
Yep.
I enjoyed. I think I could probably watch a whole movie with just them, like on their adventures.
And that's why I told you guys too. I think there's a lot more depth because you get to see all these other characters interact before. Which with the last one, it was more like one storyline all moving together, and this was like we get little subplots that actually worked and melded really well for the overall. I thought they did a very good job of the story. Whoever wrote it, I don't know the writer, but it was very well placed together.
It's James Gunn.
He's the
James
writer?
Gunn wrote
Okay.
He wrote this, and I was listening to another podcast and their review, and they were very spot on in how there was analogy to all these Marvel films. The Marvel Universe is almost like TV episodes, all telling one story. And part of this was the Yondu episode. We got to see Yondu's arc in this film, and it was great. Like, I would never have known who Yondu is. I never really had a connection to him, and they made me care for Yondu.
Mm-hmm. So the grand scheme of Ego was revealed, and in all we have probably one of the best cameos we've had in a long time. And Peter Quill in the film explains that when he was growing up, he didn't have his dad, so he told everyone his dad was David fucking Hasselhoff, and he was like, he was in a German band, and he'll be home soon. And Ego just gets really pissed off, and he's like, I went to all this trouble to make a form that was pleasing to you, and then out of nowhere, there's David fucking Hasselhoff yelling at him.
Exactly, and the reason he gets pissed off, which we were talking about previously, was the bomb he dropped on Peter. He literally told him, I killed your mother.
I put the tumor in her head.
Right, and Peter
Did
snapped
Peter
at,
hesitate?
No, he snapped at
No.
it. He snapped at it and just two guns out blazing, shooting a Celestial, like mowed him down.
Good, man. You don't fuck with a dude's mama.
No. Right.
No.
But then that's when Ego gets pissed and does the whole David Hasselhoff transformation.
So, and then, of course, in great Marvel fashion, we get 20 minutes of just explosions and fighting and no real dialogue, but just ass whoopings left and right. But and then, of course, it all leads up to the Guardians fully reunited, trying to fight off both the Sovereign and Ego, on Ego at the same time.
Inside Ego.
They bury down, and we get the scene we've seen in the trailers of Baby Groot and the bomb. No, that's the one that'll kill everyone. and Groot, like, Peter masters his abilities and gets Groot to the center to put the bomb, and then everything kind of goes from there, and the giant Pac-Man and explosions and fighting. But we get to one of the most important scenes of the film, and that's Yondu and Peter Quill's escape from Ego.
Right. Well, because you see, for very emotional for me was you think Ego's going to win, and he's using Peter again for this battery purposes, and you see him crushing all the other Guardians. All of them are getting defeated. Drax is getting in quicksand. He's still holding up Mantis, but he's under quicksand. Gamora and Nebula are getting encased in like rock. Saddest moment, Baby Groot's getting crushed inside of the planet. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like stop it.
I am Groot.
And then Yondu, with all of his gruffy and wisdom, says, I don't use my head, I use my heart. And then Peter just thinks back to all these flashbacks of all these happy moments, and he
With
turns
Yondu.
with Yondu and with Yondu and his mom and Rocket and Groot and all these happy moments, and just turns the table on Ego and starts using him as the battery and amplifies his powers.
Which I love that message because, you know, family is, I mean, you're born with family, but for a lot of people in this world, you grow up and your family is the people you surround yourself with, the people like you that are in your immediate life. And even though, you know, you're blood related to this diabolical celestial sentient planet, these people that he has bonded to are his real family, and he remembers that. And then you get like giant Pac-Man fighting rock monsters.
That was amazing.
It was great.
You see them like going at like almost like, I don't want to say like a Superman like flying to punch, but you know, like any heroic flying punch big boss battle scene. And then you see him like pulling all these elements to them, trying to make themselves tougher. And of course, you get like the exact replica of, you know, Ego in giant rock form as he was a human. And then you think it's gonna be Peter's doing the same thing. And all of a sudden, Pac-Man.
I'm gonna make some weird shit.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, at that point though, Yondu had that great line. Like, he may be your father, but he ain't your daddy.
He ain't your daddy. And good for Yondu, man. Michael Rooker knocked this. I've said this before. Knocked it out of the park, baby. I swelled up, man. I felt hard feels. And I was looking around at people in the theater like, are you crying too, man? You crying too? No, I'm the only one? Okay, I'm a pussy. Thanks for...
Yeah, because he gives him the only spacesuit and pretty much takes him to space and just...
And when Rocket says, I have one rocket and one spacesuit, here you go.
Well, yeah, because Yondu knows he needs to redeem himself.
Yeah.
Because he was the one that brought all of the kids, even except for Peter, to Ego.
When he asked Rocket, he said, let me have this one. And you see Rocket's face just... He was sad. He felt defeated as well. But he understood.
Got it.
And when he kind of walked away, like, you saw what was going to happen.
We missed one of the best lines. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think I was going to say what you were just about to say with Michael Rooker having a great performance and the best one-liner of the movie for me.
Yep.
By far.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
We do, yeah. Our minds are in the... Yeah, we were in sync there. Get out of my brain, please. Yeah.
Is he cool?
Is he a badass? Dude, you totally look like Mary Poppins right now. Is he a badass? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Yeah, I did proud of that. That is amazing.
That has become like the go-to meme right now.
It has been lately, yes. I have seen that.
And rightfully so.
Disney, you have an amazing property on your hands. Remake Mary Poppins with Yondu.
Yeah.
I'll watch it. So they make the grand escape, and of course, and once again, we warned you, everyone, spoilers, Yondu dies rescuing Peter from the black hole collapsing Ego. And I'm with Neil deGrasse Tyson on this one. The sheer physics of a planet collapsing on itself and you're going to rocketeer off of it? I don't think so, champ.
Well, and this is not your normal planet either. Obviously, other planets have cores and they have like a magnetic field and they have all items that occur with the planet. We don't know that Ego had that. We don't know that it rotates. It wasn't rotating. You saw a face at one side the whole time.
Also, guys, it's a fucking movie.
Hey, science.
I need accurate physics in my giant film about talking raccoons and
Don't
trees.
That raccoon.
He's a trash panda.
Trash panda.
Trash panda.
Is that better?
So much worse.
So much better.
So that for me, and seeing the way Peter reacted to Yondu sacrificing himself, their identity, you knew that was his father the whole time. Like, he treated him as his dad. He was his son the whole time. And for me, that was a super emotional point, because like you get the whole movie of Yondu just being awesome, like the Mary Poppins line, and like him and Raccoon going back and forth. Raccoon,
then you steal
Rocket,
it from us,
and then he's gone.
Oh, sads. But yes, Yondu by far stole the film. Him and Drax, but I think Yondu definitely the emotional cornerstone of the film.
Yeah.
Of course, as Stallone told him, like, you will not have the... I don't remember what the exact line was. But
you will not have
It's the lights.
The colors.
The lights. Funeral.
The banners.
Funeral.
Yeah.
The special Ravager, like, funeral pyre.
Kind of like, you have Viking funerals.
Yeah, like a space Viking funeral.
Right, exactly.
You will not have this for the crimes you've committed against the Ravagers. he redeems himself in full glory by helping to destroy Ego.
They spread the word of what he did.
Stallone shows up, Starhawk, Stallone, I'm going to pay respect, you did a good job here, shows up with the rest of the Ravagers and gives him the funeral he deserves.
Yep. And that was one of the, for me, the most visually appealing moments in that movie.
So at that moment, though, I want to throw this out there. We had a very Empire Strikes Back moment. This is a very Empire Strikes Back ending. Here they are, standing on the deck of this ship, looking out as they've lost this huge loss of their family, and credits roll.
Yep.
Cat Stevens, father and son, like that song is just absolutely perfect for that moment. And like, thank God that there was a bit of credits before the first sequence, because I needed a couple minutes of like, well, I've recovered now. Like,
You can say it, Tim. You were bawling.
oh, I cried a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of tear in that
So-
eye.
I was too.
There's only, I think for me, there's only one other movie that kind of gave me the same emotional connection, and that was Return of the King. At the very end of Lord of the King, when the hobbits go to kneel, and he says, "You kneel for no one." Like that, same emotional, like for me.
I get goosebumps from that scene, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah, like the hobbits, if it wasn't for the hobbits, they never would have defeated Sauron.
Yep.
So Aragorn's like, no, you don't kneel to anybody. Definitely. That same feeling of recognition and success, it's just...
It does. It just hits you right in that chord. It just chills, emotions.
It was tasteful, though. It wasn't like a blatant, like, it wasn't like a ripoff. It was like it was an emotional homage.
Yep.
And well played, James Gunn.
It was very good. I enjoyed that. And, Peter, of course, gets a new Walkman.
A Zune.
A Zune.
Okay, real talk. Did anyone in this room own a Zune?
Oh, yeah.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah, I had a Zune.
I've never
I
owned a Zune.
never did.
I did use that.
But the Zune was like the poor man's iPod.
Right.
It just felt to me that the Zune is somehow ended up floating out in space because nobody on Earth wanted it.
That's an excellent observation. I found this shit in space. That's where the rest of them are too.
No, nobody wants this. So that leads us into these post-credit scenes. And we get, and I apologize, I never remember the character name. It's James Gunn's brother, who was Yondu's right-hand man, who himself had touching moments in this movie when he had that like absolute regret as he's watching his Ravager friends being murdered just let out into space, and he realizes, so he himself kind of redeems as well. And to see him in the post-credit scene picking up the fin and the arrow and then putting it right into Drax.
right into his throat.
right in the neck. He's like, ah!
Yep.
Yeah, that was funny because he having some issues with it, trying to get it up.
Yeah.
Put up.
Damn. Dick jokes in space.
Sex jokes.
And yeah, he gets to hover a little bit, and then it takes off, and just Drax is around the corner and right in the neck.
Great scene. So I'm excited to see, obviously, a little tease. Hopefully, we get more of him in the third installment.
Right. And then the next post-credit scene was the original Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
Yeah, it was Starhawk, Stallone, and I'm sorry, we've discussed this before. Space Marvel is so huge, this obscure. I'm not going to remember the names of the original Ravagers or the Guardians, but Stallone is there with the rest of the founders of the Ravager clans,
right?
And they're getting their Guardians back together. They're getting the band back together.
I know Bing Rames was one.
Yeah, so this iteration of the Guardians of the Galaxy are not the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy started in like late 60s, early 70s. So this team that Stallone is putting together is the original Guardians of the Galaxy. So you've got Ving Rhames as Charlie 27, and Michael Rosenbaum, Lex Luthor from Smallville, is Martin X, the all-white...
The crystal.
Oh, the
crystal
diamond skin guy or whatever.
Yes.
Michelle Yeoh is Aletta.
Mm-hmm.
And then the robot...
Mainframe
is Miley Cyrus.
Wow.
Are you kidding me?
Nope.
I
Miley
did
Cyrus
not know that.
Was Mainframe.
I don't hate on Miley Cyrus.
And then there's the other alien one that makes the thumbs up like magic thing. I don't know what that one is.
That one I'm not aware of. I don't know if that's a new character or what, but
he did the Doctor Strange hand movement and then made it 2 thumbs up.
Right. And so that is the original Guardians of the Galaxy team from like the late 60s, early 70s, and as well as Yondu.
Right. Yeah, Yondu was a member of that.
Obviously, they will have some kind of... You're not going to cast those kind of actors and not use them in the next film.
Oh, of course.
You can keep...
Will they be a thorn in their side? Or will they be on an adventure with them as well. It'll be cool to see where they go with that.
Well, look what Marvel's doing with the Avengers, bro. I mean, you can't keep the same cast around, and that roster's constantly changing in the comics too. So here's a whole slew of new actors for Guardians movies. You can keep making Guardians movies as long as you can keep getting people to show up.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming they might be a thorn in the side because Stallone's last words were, "Let's go steal some shit."
Right.
yeah.
I mean, but that's Peter Quill's
I was
fucking
like,
mantra.
Right. Yeah. But I'm saying, like, so they might be like dueling at some point or
Joint forces.
or whatever. I mean, it could all be building up to Infinity, where they all have to come together and fight in Thanos.
Yeah.
I think you might be right. I feel like if we're going to see them again, they're going to show up as like an awesome cameo, like going out blaze of glory against Thanos in Infinity War. I'd love to see it. But I think the post-credit scene that just stole the whole damn movie for me was Teenage Groot.
That was amazing.
Here's Groot in his quarters on the ship. It's covered in like branches and moss. Like it looks like a kid's room. It's just dirty as fuck. And here's Peter Quill, like, and he's sitting there playing like the space version of Game Boy. And Peter Quill's like, "Hey man, are you gonna clean up your room?" And he just ignores him. He's like, "You're just gonna ignore me and play your games?" Like, I am Groot.
His voice cracking like a teenager.
Yeah.
One of the things that I liked, Peter Quill understood what Groot was saying.
He sure did.
He's getting it. And that was a great scene.
Well, even kudos to Marvel through the whole credits. Little spots were saying "I am Groot," and then they would switch over to what they really were saying. Like, that's a good little touch.
Now, during those credit scenes, the regular credit scenes of just the credits rolling and the stuff in the back, we saw like little snippets of characters like dancing in like circles, and it's very 70s. Did any of you spot Jeff Goldblum
Yes,
in
I
one
did.
of them?
Yeah.
Grandmaster.
The Guardians will obviously
Interact.
have some kind of connection with Thor.
Also, David Hasselhoff singing over the
He
end
was.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And then the next one, I don't know if it's the next one or
very,
one of
very
them,
end.
we get Stan Lee again.
There's one we missed.
I know.
credits. There's one.
Sovereign, that we're like, we finally created something that can take on the Guardians. And I shall name him Adam.
Adam fucking Warlock.
We get Adam Warlock. That will be your villain in the third installment.
But Adam Warlock is not a villain.
He will start.
He started as kind of a possible villain, and then turned,
It'll be like, hey, we're on the same
because
side.
I believe like his like first couple appearances is they tried to make him a villain for Thor.
Huh.
I did not know that.
Thor would wreck his ass.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, and obviously the last one we get Stan Lee again
Stanley
with the Watchers, and he's like, hey, like, how am I gonna get back? Like, trying to convince them, like, get me out of here.
Even they were bored. They're
Right.
like, we've heard all of your stories.
They
Stanley's
can't
like,
send
"I
him
got
back
more stories
because
to
they're
tell."
not.
Right.
They're not supposed to intervene.
They don't talk. They don't.
Although those Watchers in the comic books intervene all the goddamn time.
Sure do. They did a whole thing about it.
The first story, he interferes Galactus.
Yes.
So overall, I mean, like I told you guys before, I thought it was better than the first. I just had so much more fun. And yeah, I think they did overdo some of the comedy sometimes, but I think it was all in good taste. It was very much fun.
It was very comedy heavy, but there wasn't anything that I groaned at.
Right.
Vader pun or anything like that. Like I really enjoyed it, and anything Drax said, I was laughing at.
Yes.
By far, one of my favorite Marvel films so far. Casting perfect, storyline really well done, and I was laughing throughout the entire film. The Cat Stevens song I really did enjoy, but the rest of the soundtrack for me, it was just more like, sultry sounds of the 70s. I've heard it before.
Right.
Bled together a little bit, but for the most part, I'm looking forward to Guardians 3. But if the ending is Empire Strikes Back, I don't want a Return of the Jedi Guardians. Don't need no fuzzy little teddy bears ruining my Guardians. Yep.
I enjoyed the movie very much. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to be changed in that dynamic, because this one takes place in 2014. We won't see them again until Avengers Infinity War. Let's say it takes place in 2018. There's a 4-year difference between those two movies. What has changed? Because I'm kind of curious if they're going to do full-on Quill and Gamora together, because at the end, when they're watching the fireworks, he does put his arm around her. And she
admits that there is an unspoken thing.
Mm-hmm.
And back to my Empire reference, I mean, Luke puts his arm around his sister at the end of that movie. But I know he's not related to Gamora, so now I'm having really questionable feelings about this. But yeah, I mean, so consensus, Guardians kicked ass. If you haven't seen it, you probably shouldn't have listened to this podcast.
Right, I'm going to say, at this point, you pretty much have seen it, but definitely go see it.
Yeah, nothing we say will truly give this film the justice it deserves. At least one, maybe even two watches.
Right.
You need to see it. I'm going again this weekend.
And I'm sure we missed something or some big point, so be easy on us if you want to call it out. But yeah, I mean, we just are so excited about it. We probably skipped over some parts, but go see it. Go see it again. We loved it.
So yeah, I mean, thanks again for tuning into our podcast. Hateful Geeks, but the next time on Hateful Geeks, we've got a special treat for you. The four of us will be discussing the DC Cinematic Universe from Man of Steel to the future of Wonder Woman and Justice League coming out soon. So please tune in for that. We have a lot of bad things to say about Suicide Squad.
Boo.